Good morning, all. Welcome to our class, Electrical and Fire Hazard and Safety Management, Bsc Hazard Safety and Security Management. Today, we'll continue our lecture with dangers of electric shock. Today, we'll continue our lecture with dangers of electric shock. The last lecture, we were able to understand what electric shock is, the various types of voltage and current that can affect human being, and that's what we are able to look at. That's what we were able to look at last week. So the severity of injury from electric shock depends on the amount of current and the length of time the current passes through the person's body. So that means if a person gets in contact with electrical current, the danger by which the person will get shock depends on the length of time it has contact with the current and the amount of voltage that current is. So, which means electrical currents are not really dangerous, but it depends on the amount of current that is coming and the length of time you are able to get exposed to it. So, what do we say? We say the three factors are involved in electrical shock. Three factors are involved in electrical shock. The first one is the resistance, the second one is the voltage, and the third one is what? The current. So, current above 10 milliamp can paralyze or freeze a muscle. So, which means if a current that is higher than 10 milliamps, it can freeze the muscle and it can paralyze. And that's why they said the person is shocked. The local language we normally use that the person is shocked and the person is shocked and he could not do anything. So for this reason, if you hold on to anything longer than a certain period, if you hold on to things longer than a certain period, you get shocked. And that's very, 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 very dangerous. So a person stops breathing when the shock goes beyond. So it takes about 30 milliamp of current to cause respiratory paralysis. That means if a current is more than 30 milliamp, it will cause respiratory paralysis and the person will stop breathing instantly. Any current that is greater than 75 milliamp will cause what? Ventricular vibrations. That means it will instantly, the condition will lead to death and the person will die in less than few minutes. The person will die in less than few minutes. Any tissues, body tissues can be burned from a current that is greater than 5 amp. Any current that is greater than 5 amp, it will burn the tissue. So if we look at the table in front of us, that table shows the effect of electrical current on human. Various form of various currents above shows the kind of reaction a person will get if you are exposed to the current. If you are exposed to the current, there will be various types of electrical effect. Any 1 milliamp will cause a faint tingle. For a man or for a woman, anything between 6 to 25 milliamp, the person will feel pain, shock, and it will lose muscular control. But for men, it is between 90 to 30 milliamp. So for anything current that is greater than 50 to 150 milliamp, it will cause an extreme pain and respiratory arrest. That means breathing will stop. The person will stop breathing if the current is more than 50 to 150 milliamp. For a current that is greater than 15,000 milliamp, the lowest overcurrent at which a typical force or circuit breaker open, those currents will lead to what? To death. Any current that is greater than 10,000 milliamp, it will cause cardiac arrest. Instantly, it will cause cardiac arrest and that person can die if something is not done. Sometimes higher voltage leads to additional injuries. Higher voltage leads to additional injuries. That means high voltage can cause violent muscular contraction, which may lead to loss of balance and fall. Sorry, I think that's lost in power, but power will be restored. Power will be restored now. So at about 600 voltage, the current passes through the body and it may cause serious nerve damage and all other things that. So a severe shock can cause much more damage to the body than it is visible. A severe shock can cause more damage than the body that is visible. So a person may suffer internal pain and destruction of the tissues, nerves, and muscles. That means when a person gets shocked, sometimes we see people that electrical current pass through their body and they stand up and we say, that person, nothing. In Yoruba language, yes, we may not see the effects on the body outside, but we can see the effects internally. Sometimes the shock can affect some of the internal organ and which can lead to death to that person. So let's look at a case study. A male service technician arrived at a customer house to perform pre-winter maintenance on an oil furnace. The customer then left the house and returned 30 minutes later. She noticed the service truck was still in the driveway. After 2 more hours, the customer entered the driveway, the crop space, with a flashlight to look at the technician but could not see him. She then called the owner of the company, who came to the house. He searched and crawled the space and found that the technician on his stomach, leaning on his elbow in front of the furnace. So this is a technician who came to repair a furnace in a customer house. And when the customer was leaving, the technician was still alive. But by the time she came back, she did not see the technician. She has to call the company. So by the time they got there, they called the coroner, the county coroner, and they pronounced the technician dead at the scene. The victim had electrical burn on his scalp and is right below. So what really happened? The electrician inspected the site. The toggle switch that's supposed to control the electrical power to the furnace was in an off position. So if you see the socket that we normally use, the socket is in off position. He sees that it's in off position, but however, there's still current in it. There's still current in it, but it's in off position. So what happened? What happened is that the person who fixed the current, who fixed the power source, mistakenly fixed the off and on position in the wrong way. So when you off it, it is on. When you on it, it is off. So that is what really happened. So that experience shows us that before we touch anything electrical, before we start any electrical work, whether it is in the on position or whether it is in the off position, what should we do? We should leave it and test it with a what? A current tester. We should use a tester to do what? To test it, whether the current is on or off. Also, we should use proper PPE. We should use PPE whenever we are working. We should use PPE, most especially rubber gloves. We should use rubber gloves and other PPE to save ourselves. We can see the picture we shown. That is an example of an electrical burn. That is an example of an electrical burn on the hand and the arm. That is an example of an electrical burn on the hand and on the arm. You can see the laceration. That is an high voltage. That is a current passing through somebody's body that caused that deep cut. There has been several cases of where the arm or leg is severely burned at high voltage, where an arm so you can see that electrical current can cause a lot of damage in our body. Electrical current can cause a lot of damage in our body. It can cause burn, and it can also cause serious effects. It can cause burn, and it can also cause serious effects. It can cause serious laceration. It can cause serious laceration. It can cause other serious issues. So the danger of electrical shock depends on the amount of shock current passed through our body, the duration of the shock in the body, and the parts to which it passes through our body. I want to start with lecture 3.
Thank you.
I want to see if I can introduce lecture 3 today. So, lecture 3, I'm introducing lecture 3 today. If you can't finish lecture 3 today, we'll continue. And lecture 3 tells us the types of burns that we can notice from electrical current. Most common shock-related non-fatal injury is burn. I mean, if the person did not get shocked, what will happen to the person? That the person's body will get burns and peeling. And the burning, the electrical burning are of 3 different types. There's electrical burns, there's arc burns, Madam, please put your. There's electrical burns, there's arc burns, and there's terminal contact burns. There's electrical burns, there's arc burn, and there's terminal contact burns. Electrical burns can result when a person touches electrical wire or equipment that is on use or maintaining purpose. So that means you can only get burns from electrical wire, from electrical material, if you have contact with them. Or your clothes can catch fire when you have contact with electricity, and that results in what? In burning. Or the terminal heat gets into your body and it's what? It affects you. You can see the picture there. That is contact electrical burns. You can see the 2 nails. The 2 nails are what? have been energized and it has caused serious burns. So what is arc blast? Arc blast occur when powerful high voltage or high amperage comes into blast, and they are normally accomplished with high temperature. You know, sometimes we hear loud noise and people say, the transformer in the area has burned. The transformer in the area has this thing. That is an example of what? An arc blast. That is an example of an arc blast. It normally accompanied with high voltage. It normally gets accompanied with high voltage. There are hazards associated with arc blast. Arcing gives off terminal radiation, which is heat, and sometimes with intensive light. When a transformer gets burnt or a transformer explodes, we see high voltage or high light, and there is flash of light. We can see it from distance. Imagine a person getting closer to that place. What happens? There'll be serious degree of injury. It can discolor the skin. It can affect the eyes. It can affect the eyes, and it can also affect the distance. So if you are working in an electrical situation, proper clothing must be what? Must be done. Proper clothing must be wear. You must wear proper clothing. And this can what? This will help. This will help. So which means anybody working in an electrical situation or working with electricity, you must use proper clothing. Or you work in distance. You work in distance, or you distance yourself far away from what you are working on. That means you have to have special equipment or specialized equipment to work. High voltage can produce considerable pressure also. If you recollect that there are some video I sent earlier before we start this course, a person that is in contact with high voltage, it can lift a person 2 feet away. Sometimes some electrical current, when they give a loud power, the pressure by which they exert can lift a person, and that person will die. This force sometimes is around 480 pounds. You can imagine the force of 480 pounds. A 33 kVA electrical voltage can exert a force of over 100 pounds, which means it can push anything along its path. That is one of the danger of electrical voltage. They always come with pressure. So arc blasts sometimes come with pressure, and this pressure is very, very high. High voltage also can cause serious damage. Most of the materials used for electricity are either aluminum or copper. And when they melt, when the electricity chomp down and they melt, if they get to somebody's body, it will cause damage. That means they will pierce the skin, or if they drop on the clothing, it will cause burning. So electrical current may not be the thing that will kill the person, but the materials that which the electricity pass through, if it is copper wire or it is aluminum wire, if the current is very high and the wire gets melted, the droplets of the aluminum or the copper can get into the person's body, and it will form spot holes in the body, and it can lead to death. It can also drop in somebody's body, on the patient's body, and it causes fire. And when it causes fire, it can lead to death. So sometimes the ordinary clothing a person wear may be the thing that will result to death. It may not be the electrical current. It may not be the burn. It may not be the electrical contact with the burn, but it can be the fire that results from the melting of the electrical component, which leads to the death of the person. Let's take this case study. 5 technicians were performing preventive maintenance on the electrical system of a railroad maintenance facility. One of the technicians was assigned to clean the lower compartment of an electrical cabinet using cleaning fluid in an aerosol can. But he began to clean the upper compartment as well. The upper compartment was filled with light circuits. When the cleaning spray contacted the live circuitry, a conductive path from the current was created. The current passed through the stream of fluid into the technician's arms and crossed his chest. This caused a loud explosion. Co-worker found the victim with his clothes on fire. One worker put out the fire with an extinguisher and the other put the victim away from the compartment. So you can see that it is the liquid that comes from the circuit that causes the what? The explosion. It is the liquid that comes from this thing that causes what? Explosion. It's not the electrical current. It's not the electrical current that causes it. It is the liquid that comes from it that causes what? The explosion. So sometimes it is not the electrical current that kills people, but all other associated things that comes with it that kills. So how could we prevent death from such a situation? Before doing any electrical work, we must de-energize all electrical circuits. Before doing any electrical work, we must de-energize all electrical circuits. We must de-energize all electrical circuits. We must test and make sure that there is no current in what we want to work on before we start it. The second one, the company should have train the workers to perform their job safely. Anybody that is working in an electrical company or electrical related company, training and retraining is very, very important. Training and retraining is very, very important. Also, proper protective equipment. You must be able to use PPE, adequate PPE, helmets, body arms, gloves, rubber boots that is fit for electrical use. Never use aerosol spray can around high voltage equipment. Never use anything that is chemical or spray near an high voltage equipment. It will cause an explosion. It will cause an explosion. That is a picture of a person burning in flame. That is the picture of a person burning in flame. Electrical fire. Electricity is one of the most common causes of fire and thermal burns in homes. Most of the fire that occur in homes are what? As a result of electrical fire. Most of the things that occur as a result of what? Electrical fire. So defective and misused electrical equipment is one of the major causes of electrical fire. Electrical overload is also one of the causes. I won't go further to teach you the types of fire extinguisher you will use because that I taught you the course first semester. That is the end of the third lecture, which highlights the electrical burns, the types of electrical burns that can occur, which can be normal electrical burn, arc burns, or thermal contact burns. And what electrical burns can result when a person touches electrical currents. We've talked about the arc blast, and we talk about the case study. So that is the end of the third lecture. If anybody asks any question, about the first and second lecture, let's see. Peace. You say you can't see the screen you are sharing. Are you sure about that? Peace. Can't hear you.
So I'm here, sir. My place is noisy. I don't want to disturb you.
Yeah, you said you can't see the screen. Is that true?
Yeah, yes, I was not seeing all the things you were sharing.
How come? That could be that would be from your hand now. It can be that would be from your hand because everybody is seeing the screen. The people that are seeing the screen. I will share the video. I'll share the lecture video in the next few minutes.
Okay, sir.
Okay, we'll continue with process safety by 11.
Today, sir.
Today, the second lecture will continue by 11.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, yeah.